Kaunihera. Thank you for being with us. We have you for 10 minutes, so I'll hand over to you to begin your presentation.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Suzanne Manning tōku ingoa. I am Pākehā, my pronouns are she, her. I am the president of Te Kaunihera Wāhine o Aotearoa, the National Council of Women of New Zealand.
Kia ora, ko Alicia Amohe tōku ingoa, ko Te Ati Haunui a Pāparangi, a rātou ko Ngāti Maru, ko Ngāti Haua ngā iwi, no Taumarunui, me Kamapotia, me Inia o. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the president of the local NCW branch here in Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington.
NCW fiercely opposes the coalition government's proposed principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill. The NCW grew out of the suffrage movement with the goal of equal political participation for women and therefore greater democracy, improved democracy, democracy that would work. Our members have continued to have a keen interest in participation and democracy to this day, which is why they are so concerned about this bill. NCW recognises the Treaty of Waitangi as being a foundational contract for establishing Aotearoa as we know it today. It has constitutional level status and therefore cannot and should not be changed through an ordinary legislative process with ordinary consultation processes. Indeed, as we've seen, the public have turned this ordinary select committee process into something quite extraordinary. Changing the interpretation of the treaty of itself through ordinary legislation is unconstitutional, illegal, and in breach of the treaty, as well as in breach of several UN treaties, such as the Convention on Racial Discrimination and the Rights of Indigenous People. NCW supports the Human Rights Commission position that this bill breaches human rights when they said this bill specifically takes away the rights of only one group of New Zealanders, which is not in line with human rights standards. The bill therefore breaches the International Convention on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination by removing Māori rights without any discussion directly with them. It also breaches the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
Indigenous rights cannot be erased or modified by legislation. For tangata whenua, there are rights that come from whakapapa, from our connection to the whenua. The right to exercise tino rangatiratanga or self-determination is just one of those rights. It's also described in Article 2 of Te Treaty of Waitangi, affirming the continuing exercise of tino rangatiratanga by Māori. Principle 2, as proposed in this bill, attempts to inappropriately extend tino rangatiratanga to all New Zealanders, and there is no treaty or contract or law that could bestow a right that is gained through whakapapa. The bill misrepresents the foundational concepts of Te Tiriti and distorts the original guarantees made to Māori, which will reduce Te Tiriti protections to Māori and taonga and add to structural discrimination. NCW believes the bill's proposed Principle 2 also jeopardizes this country's national and international commitments to safeguarding our natural environment. Statutory protections for our natural environment include treaty settlement claims, which are not only for the interests of Māori, but are benefits enjoyed by all. The bill presents a profound risk to the future prosperity of our landscape and to previously won campaigns to protect it, which have been largely led by Indigenous communities.
NCW takes an inclusive, intersectional feminist approach to our work. We recognise that ignoring cultural differences between women does not result in equality for all. This is obvious, for example, in the way that health outcomes for wahine Māori are worse on virtually every health indicator compared to Pākehā women. This has been shown by research over many years to be a result of structural discrimination caused in part by breaches of Te Treaty of Waitangi over more than a century. And research has also shown quite clearly that the best outcomes for Māori come from kaupapa Māori health services. That is, treating Māori as Māori and not trying to provide a one Pākehā size fits all approach. And this intersectional approach was recognised recently by the Committee for the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, that is the CEDAW Committee. Recommendations from their concluding observations on the reporting period last October show their strong awareness of the intersectional nature of discrimination faced by wahine Māori.
The implementation of this bill would undermine social cohesion. NCW would like to discuss the gender aspect of this issue. It is disingenuous that the bill's proposed Principle 3 would claim everyone is equal before the law and should receive equal protection of the law without acknowledging the existing inequities for Māori, in particular for wahine Māori, around pay equity, economic independence, education opportunities, and safety and health outcomes, just to name a few, and without a mechanism to hold the government to account on already failing to satisfy this principle. Wahine Māori are often the paumanua, or the centre poles of most families. Simply put, to undermine wahine Māori is to undermine the whānau, and social cohesion suffers. Without care and attention to the discrimination that wahine Māori uniquely face, these challenges will be exacerbated. In pre-colonial Māori society, gender relations were more balanced. Wahine Māori were more respected and had greater leadership opportunities than in today's colonial society, where gender equality is far from being achieved. It is of great concern to NCW that the opinion of a minor political party has the potential to further discriminate against all wahine Māori, overriding their collective wishes and wisdom.
So in conclusion, the Treaty of Waitangi principles developed over the past 50 years by Waitangi Tribunal reports, 40 years of case law have brought hope and direction for all New Zealanders. This bill, if implemented, would result in significant harm towards Māori and degrade the respect and honour of critical cultural diversity in this country. We are concerned that under the Treaty Principles Bill, current initiatives to plan, prioritise and deliver culturally appropriate services to wahine Māori will be undermined or discontinued. Social, political, economic and health inequities from wahine Māori would increase. This cannot be allowed to happen. This bill threatens to perpetuate the injustices of the past and widen the gap of inequity that persists in our communities. And from our point of view, this is particularly so for wahine Māori and other women. From the decisions of the Waitangi Tribunal, based on wide consultation with Māori, from the decades of academic consideration and judicial analysis that have had input from Māori, National Council of Women firmly believes that the public is comfortable with the existing interpretation of the treaty principles. The members of the National Council of Women of New Zealand are especially so. We request that the Select Committee recommend for this unconstitutional, illegal and fundamentally flawed bill to be rejected in its entirety. Kia ora.
Thank you. We've got time for one question. We'll take it from Dr. Deborah Russell.
Oh, thank you, Chair. You mentioned that the public of New Zealand had seized on this bill and the opportunity and turned the whole process into something quite different, I think was your words, or something like that. Can you just elaborate a little on that?
300,000 submissions crashing a website is not usual practice for a select committee. That is extraordinary. So my words were, it's turned an ordinary select committee process into something extraordinary. So the National Council of Women regularly submit on a wide range of legislation. Usually we don't have any problem getting an oral submission. This time we were honoured to be one of the few who were selected and invited to be. That is not extraordinary for this. The public have talked about this in much greater depth and quantity than usual.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for the time for the session this afternoon. So I just want to acknowledge on behalf of the committee, you both being with us and for providing a presentation. It's greatly appreciated.